Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Talking Sass. And thank you guys so much for joining me. You know, it is the beginning of March, which means a lot of things. But one of the things that it means is it is my birthday month. I am so excited that it is my birthday month that I have lined up a stellar amount of guests to interview, including today's episode, which has not one, not two, not even three or four, but five guests. Really, I'm so excited to get started with this one. But before we do, because it is my birthday month and it is the beginning of the month, it is the beyond perfect time for you guys to sign up for patreon.com/sassy Stephie. Not only are you going to get all the regular monthly exclusives, but there's going to be extra birthday surprises from me to you. So make sure you go and sign up on patreon.com/sassy Stephie. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Sassy Stephie as well. And do me a favor. This is what I want for my birthday. Whatever you're doing right now, however you are listening or watching, go and subscribe. It is so important, and I would love to have you as a subscriber. So if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification. And also, if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And more specifically, if you are listening on Apple, make sure you go and give me a 5-star rating and leave a review. If you leave a review, who knows? I might just read it here on Talking Sass. Now, on to today's guests. Like I said, I have five amazing guests. Now, in 2007, I had just started wrestling. Actually, my wrestling anniversary is in like a week. But WSU also started in New Jersey, and it grew and grew and turned into a place that I consider one of my homes. I absolutely loved my time at WSU. And I wish I could go back and experience some of those things all over again. But today we are going to be reminiscing about some of those, my memories and other people's memories. One of my guests is Amy Lee, who is a badass who will skull fuck you in a heartbeat. Trust me on that. Another one of my guests is Annie Social, who is such a dominant force. Trust me, do not piss her off intentionally. You are going to regret it. Another one of my guests is Brittney Savage, who is not only my biggest rival in WSU, but definitely in my career. I spent a good probably 3 to 4 years wrestling her on a regular basis, but I would have it no other way. Another one of my guests is Marty Bell, who is the first person to appear, well, not the first person actually, the first female to appear here on Talking Sass twice, because of course we have Dan Murphy every month. And the last, but certainly not least, is the man who brought it all together, WSU's the Mick, or as we know him, Sean. He brought us together, and on its own, it became a sisterhood of women that I will never forget in my career for everything that they had done to expand wrestling for us and to help WSU grow. So I cannot wait to reminisce with my girls and, of course, Sean. So here we go. This is WSU Originals. This is the WSU Originals podcast. I am so excited to bring back five of some of my favorite people at WSU. And I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of history there. So we're going to cover from when Mick took it over, when it was a male and female promotion, all the way to what it is now. But to help me talk about these things, we're obviously have to have some guests. So we're going to introduce each other. Of course, you know me. I'm Sassy Stephie. This is Talking Sass. Amy Lee, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yo, what up? This primetime Amy Lee. I am the original bitch of WSU.
And next, we're going to go to my greatest rival at WSU, Brittney Savage.
Hey, I'm Brittany Savage, and I do not have as great of a start off like Amy did, but yes, I am one of the WSU originals as well. Thanks, Amy.
Next up, we have the lovely Marty Bell.
Hey guys, this is Marty Bell, former Spirit Champion and former WSU Tag Team Champion.
We have the Mick.
I am Sean. I'm the only WSU promoter that ever mattered.
And last but not least, we have Annie Social.
That's Annie Social, first ever and whole bunch of fucking times tag team champion WSU.
Hell yeah.
So Mick, back in 2007, you actually bought WSU from another promoter who had, it was a men and women's promotion and you bought it. And on March 3rd, 2007, you had your very first show, and you had some amazing names on the show. Amazing names. We have Daphne, we have Talia Madison, which everybody knows is Velvet Sky, Becky Bayless, Missy Hyatt, and of course we had Amy Lee on that show. What made you buy that promotion and turn it into an all women's promotion at the time?
Well, I didn't buy it. What happened was the guy who had it before me owed me money, so I just took it over. And I just decided to do it because I was running spot shows for Joe Panzarino and NWS, and we were running like women's tournaments. So I had the DVD rights, and when I saw it was selling, I said, maybe this is the avenue I want to go down. And then I just took it from there, and Alicia was a big part of that, you know, helping get like all those names you listed. And from there, we just started rocking and rolling.
Amazing. Amy, I know you were on that first show. You were in the ring with Alaire Littlefeather. What was it like the first show for you?
Oh, it was tremendous because Mick actually was the first person to ever spotlight real women's wrestling. It wasn't all tits and ass, and it wasn't grabbing coochies and all that stuff. It was real women's wrestling. And I have to say, I'll give Mick a shout out. One of the reasons why I stuck with Mick over the years and when Mick left and sold the company is because he always treated the women like his sister.
100%. Annie, when was your first match with WSU?
Wait, was that me?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't even know. Honestly, I could not tell you the first person. Wait. Shit, dude, I don't remember. I'm not even gonna lie.
Okay, that's no problem. No problem. Brittany, who was your first match there at WSU?
Oh, my first match was a great time. So I teamed up with Raina Fire against Melissa Coates and Tracy Lynn. It was a great time.
Now,
My deepest condolences.
Marty, I remember her first match because I think it was my second or third show there. And we actually discussed this on the podcast. She was wrestling the Boston Shore with Tina San Antonio. And I told her, I just remember I was watching that match through the curtain and I just saw Lish light her up. And I was like, oh my God, that poor woman in that ring.
I was trying to find, because I have somewhere around here, I actually have like one of the original posters for it wasn't for, obviously it wasn't for the first show ever, but I definitely have that somewhere. I'll have to find it. Yeah, my first match at WSU was myself and Tina, and it was our first time tagging. And I'm also like 100% positive I also got concussed that match. So it was a great introduction into independent wrestling, because I really, like, Mick was one of the first guys who ever like gave myself and Tina a chance. So when I wrestled, that was in March. I had my first match in November, and you know, by March 2010, I was wrestling on WSU. So I didn't have much experience. I didn't know how to protect myself. I didn't know how to take care of myself, and I think it showed.
Oh, but I mean, it was obviously something I remember watching through the curtain. Like, there's not many matches I can be like, oh yeah, I watched this match and I can tell you exactly what happened. But that match, just because of that one chop, I was like, oh, like
it's been 11 years. So yeah.
I remember. It was Alexa Thatcher.
Oh, that's a name I haven't heard in quite a long time.
Yeah.
And I smashed my shoulder and lost 3 minutes of the entire match. I do not remember those 3 minutes at all.
Really? Did you get concussed, or what happened during that match?
I like separated my shoulders and then continued to take like 6 more bumps that I don't remember. When I went back and watched it, I was like, what? When did that happen?
Wow. I mean, WSU, honestly, like, just my personal opinion and probably a lot of others, like, it was a lot of tough women, like, just in general. Like, I don't think anybody else probably separated their shoulder and continued like Annie. But like, I felt, and I mean, you guys can chime in and let me know what you guys think. Like, of course you had Shimmer and later you had Shine and other women's promotions that came along. But like, I felt like WSU was kind of like this underground, gritty, but like powerful women going out there and putting on like amazing shows.
Gritty
It was raw.
Gritty was the first word that came to mind, because I was talking to somebody about me doing this podcast today and kind of explaining what WSU was. And I was like, yeah, we were the first promotion that had that what was it, 120-minute Iron Woman match, the War Games match. One of my like big matches at WSU was a big uncensored match where I got like slaughtered. Like there were a lot of really, really big matches that you didn't see women having, and also just like that spotlight, like the 120-minute Iron Woman match was insane. Was it 109? I forgot, but it was like
It's like 85 or something like that.
oh well.
The one with Mercedes and Lexus, right?
Yeah. To me, it was like 120 minutes because it was amazing, and it was. But women weren't doing shows like this, and not just matches like this, but shows like this.
Yeah, and we were having the doubleheader weekend. So not just would you go and see one show, you would see two shows. And you were just seeing women, I mean, literally just pretty much putting their whole bodies on the line. I mean, obviously, Annie talked about her shoulder being separated. At one time, I may or may not, with the help of my Midwest Militia sisters, hurt Mercedes Martinez just a little bit in a War Games match and handcuffed Amy and Brittany to the cage at the same time. But it was different. And I remember, I don't want to put over the Midwest Militia too much, but like I remember that particular match, Melina had just come from WWE. She had been fired, and it was her first, I think, independent show from WWE. And she came up to us in the War Games match and was like, WWE, of course, at that time, would never let us do anything like what you guys are going to do with a cage match, let alone a War Game.
Especially with the finish like that too, with the machete.
But basically, if you think about it, WSU, it was the balls of indie wrestling at the time. I mean, we didn't have to take light bulbs and crack them over one another's heads and barbed wire and stuff like that. We relied more on our skills and our talent and things like that. And that's why it was so entertaining, because it was surreal to a lot of people. And we just basically, if you think about it, we just kicked the shit out of one another because we all had one thing in common. Well, a couple of things in common. One, we all love pro wrestling. Two, we all wanted to show women in a positive light. And three, you can be a beauty, but you can be a beast in the ring. And that's what we were showing. As a matter of fact, when my last match with WSU, when I decided, because I had talked to Mick about retiring, I put Brittany Savage over. And if it was anybody else, they would have asked me outside of WSU. I would have said, screw you, fuck off. But I gave it to Brittany, and I gave it to her because she was coming up. She busted her ass. And I have to say, you took an ass whooping that day. I beat you like fucking Joan Crawford with a wire hanger. And you took it like a champ, and you had my respect. And you busted your ass. And that's why it was a pleasure to put you over. It really was.
Thank you. It was definitely one of my favorite matches of all time.
No, I just want to ask a question here to Amy and Brittany. Was that the infamous dildo match?
Oh my God, that fan handed a dildo, and I was like, okay.
It was I believe a fans bring the weapons match, and Amy, you took that dildo and just went to town on Brittany. Poor Brittany.
There was a golf club included too.
But I told her, I said, I'm going to beat you to death. I'm going to beat you like a dog. I said, but I'm going to put you over. And I said, and when I'm done with that, you're going to be larger than life. And I was right, because she was able to, when she went into War Games and things like that, she already had a kick-ass reputation. So why not?
Thank you, Amy.
Amy may have had some creative control back then.
I had what?
Had some creative control. There's no way I would have said, hey, go use a dildo.
Yeah.
The fan handed it to me, and you have to give the fans what they want.
That's another moment. Like I said, I don't have a lot of moments where I watch matches from behind the curtain and like I can remember specific things that happened. But WSU seems to be one of those places that like I saw shit that I never thought I'd see, and it stayed with me.
Well, Sassy, if you remember, we met at another women's, it was like a customs. We met down in Tennessee, and I said to you got to get a hold of Mick, because I just loved your charisma. I loved your ring etiquette. I loved your style. And I said, you got to reach out to him. Tell him I told him to use you, and I just kept being persistent for you to contact Mick. And that was one thing, Mick, I always gave you kudos for. If people reached out to you, you would give them the opportunity. You always gave people an opportunity. They either sank or swam. So
Yeah, like we're just saying, like the creative control joke, that really was kind of the way it was. Just I never really interfered with what you guys wanted to do. I give you like the outline, but you guys just took your own ball and you ran it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what made WSU special as well. Cause like I've been to some promotions where like literally on the wall, it has my whole match planned out for me. Like it only happened once and I was just baffled. I was like, I'm a 12-year person in this business and this person who doesn't know me at all literally wrote out move for move what the fuck I was doing. I was just like, oh, I don't even understand. But at WSU, you had that creative control with your match. Like if you wanted to do something, I could go up to Mick and be like, hey, is this cool? And he's usually like, yeah, do what you want. It's your match. And to me, that was so special to have, especially early in my career where I was green as shit coming in and wrestling. And can you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because the psychology behind that with Mick was a happy wrestler is a very productive wrestler. So he let you plan your match, but it was up to you to deliver. And if you didn't deliver, ticks on you.
Mhm.
But everybody always stepped up. That was the one thing. Mick gave you an opportunity, gave you a platform, and you guys ran with it. And that's the most important thing, is you were quick to seize those opportunities given to you, which are not given, as you said, in other promotions.
And a lot of it had to do with Mercedes too being around, because you could always, like for you, I can't tell you how to do anything. Mercedes, you know, she can help you put your matches together. I think she was like a huge part of like why I got successful too, you know?
Well, yeah.
I feel like I actually remember you saying something like that one time. You're like, I'm not a wrestler. I don't know. Ask Mercedes. Like it was.
That's what I was wanting to add to.
And honestly, I feel like I appreciated that so much more because you were handling the business side of things. You were handling making sure things, you know, everybody was getting paid. The show was successful. People were showing up. But then you left the wrestling to the wrestlers, and I think that that's so important. And like, that's also probably why you had some people that were happy because. It is hard when somebody who's never, you know, been a wrestler is trying to tell you how to be a wrestler. You're like, but you're a business person. I'm not telling you how to run your business. So having people like Mercedes, like Amy, we had so many like amazing vets in the locker room that would be the ones to be like, hey, this is what you should do. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, Mercedes telling me to do this 100%. Like, no questions asked. And one thing too is I feel like we built so many relationships in WSU. Like obviously Allysin Kay is my best friend. We've been best friends for X number of years because we met in a WSU.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. Wow.
Oh yeah, Allysin Kay is literally like my date to every single family event and vice versa. Like but we met at WSU. Even like continuing on, you know, working for Shine, working for Shimmer, I always felt comfortable talking to Mercedes because we have built that relationship at WSU.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know I have a picture. I'm pretty sure maybe all of you are in it. I'm gonna have to double check. Well, not the Mick, but the girls. And there's a bunch of people in it, and it's just like I felt like that was family to me. Like when I went to WSU, like I felt I could be myself, and I could do what I felt. Obviously, like we were saying, we had creative control. I could do what I felt was right for my match or for myself in that instance. And like I feel like, as I said, it's my home. But also that like that's where I really grew as a wrestler. Like, yeah, okay, I went to Shimmer and I had great matches there too, but I didn't grow as a wrestler there as much as I did at WSU. That's the picture I was talking about, Marty.
Which one's that? Is that from a Hall of Fame?
No, it was, I don't even know. It's Amy, Britt, Athena, Leva, Serena, Jana, Cindy, Mercedes.
Show it on the camera.
Myself.
I think we were all just fucking off that day.
I'll send it to you, Steph. I was looking through and I have so many pictures from WSU.
Yeah.
But that one, that's a great picture.
Mm-hmm. And it shows the talent that, okay, yes, we always had like vets that we could look up to that would come in, like say like a Rain, or like I wrestled Angelina Love. I know she was there a couple of times. Daphne was there. You know, there was always women that were well experienced at WSU, but then like all of a sudden towards the end of Mick, like people were coming up to like, I know me and Brittany as well, like, okay guys, what about this? And we're like, how did we become the locker room leaders all of a sudden? I know Nancy, not Nancy, but Annie Social as well. I mean, I always looked up to her. I got her booked in Cleveland a couple of times because I was like, I want to work with her more. And unfortunately, at WSU at the time, our paths had never crossed.
Dude, I always had fun wrestling with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, super fun time. But I also like, I loved the original WSU because Mick was just like, here's what I initially want. Just have a fucking blast. And that's what we did. You know, we got to do whatever we want, say whatever we want. You can't do that shit anywhere, and it'll never happen again.
Well, some of us can't, but some of us can because we just do it. Some of us just do it. We don't care. We're like Nike. We just do it. But no, you're right. The one thing I liked about it, and you have to understand, I had worked for Jerry Law at USWA. So I had worked, actually, there wasn't too much women's wrestling around for me. So to come into WSU, I was originally into another women's extreme company where it was TNA and wrestling. And they used the TNA to lure in for the platform of wrestling. But then Mick came along and I was like, yeah, this is what I want. Because if you look, you had it was a very diversified group, all different backgrounds, all different ethnic backgrounds, and, you know, race, color, creed, religion, geographical. But you know what? We all united. You know, we all, like I said in the beginning, we all were there for one thing: positive women's wrestling, because we were tired of all the TNA and this, that, and the other. And we all know I wasn't a TNA girl. I was leather. I was like whoop your ass in leather kind of girl. But I enjoyed WSU because I saw when Marty came in for the first time, and I saw her mature and grow, and you, Sassy, Stephanie, and Brittany, and Annie, and I actually trained Annie in South Philly a few times. So to see you guys come in, these young, basically to me, kids come into these mature women that have developed in this promotion, it just tickled my heart every time I see you guys in a main event or going for the strap or something like that. It just tickled my heart because, you know, some of you guys are like handpicked, and I was like, yeah. And some of you guys, I just watch you grow, and I knew your background or where you came from, and I'm like, yeah, no, they got that old school in them. And all of you have that old school mentality. So, you know, you guys should really be proud of yourselves of what you've accomplished. No, it's true. I really was a huge mark for Marty and Tina. I was a huge mark for them. I love watching them. I love watching, you know, the militias. I used to, you know, and then I would watch all you guys, Brittany. I watched when Brittany first came with the platinum blonde hair and the little outfits. And then I just watched her develop into this terror in the ring. And I'm like, she gets it. You all got it. And Mick gave you the platform. That's the most important thing. And that is the biggest thing that I took away, is I got to watch some of the people I cherish the most grow and develop. And you've gone on to better things and bigger things. So kudos to all of you.
Thank you.
Oh, look at Mama Amy. She's getting all sentimental.
That's because I'm old. That's because I'm old.
I feel like our era of time with the company is like way ahead of its time. Like we just missed the boat on everything, you know?
Yeah.
There's actually a million women promotions out there. Even like the MMA, you see them in UFC, Bellator, whatever. Like, we just missed. We were there, but I think it could have been bigger if we had it like now, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about it, a lot of people credit Shimmer as well, but like I think you have to throw WSU in there, because without WSU doing the things that we did, I don't think you would have had this same kind of women's revolution that they're talking about now within the last like 3, 4, 5 years at WWE, because they are having War Games matches. Who did that first? WSU did.
Right.
Who had the first Iron Woman match? It wasn't anybody else. It was WSU. So like, you know, I don't think, I mean, like I said, there's so many women in the WWE right now, or in AEW and wherever else, TNA or Impact, whatever it's called now, that have come through the doors of Shimmer, and they always credit Shimmer. But I think you have to also credit WSU, because a lot of them came through WSU as well. And I mean, you have veterans too. Like I said, I mentioned, you know, the Velvet Skies, the, you know, Angelina Loves, the Daphnes, that were all there as well, that had those established TV names and elevated us, the people coming up in the business as well.
I think that Shimmer is that the Shimmer, when it came to them, it's just pure wrestling. I always thought, when I only watched like 1 or 2 of their shows, and it just seemed it was just wrestling. Like what I liked about what we did was, all you guys were like part of it. It was a little storytelling. It just every time I watched a streamer match, I felt like if I watched one match, I watched them all, kind of thing. Where I watched all different characters doing all their own stuff, and that's why I like, it goes by how you grew up with. And I don't know what he used to watch, but I know what I used to watch, and you see like the EC influence in what we were doing.
We weren't cookie cutters. Like you never,
No.
honestly, we definitely weren't cookie cutters. You never knew what was coming out of someone's mouth or what they were going to do in the ring or anything like that. But before we get deeper into this, I got to give a shout out to our girl, Mercedes Martinez, and working for WWE. Now, I got to give her a shout out. She stuck through it, man. That girl deserves kudos for what she did. She really does. She really does. I got to give her a shout out. Gotta give Mercedes a shout out.
I hope she gets that big payday one day, like the big WrestleMania payday.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, she's challenging. I'm pretty sure she's challenging for the NXT Women's Title at their next big pay-per-view. It's like her and Toni Storm.
Sunday. Yes, February 14th.
So, there are some people that you're just so happy to see them succeed. Another person like that is Athena. Like Athena, Heidi Lovelace, all these girls, watching them on TV and like watching them debut makes me just so it makes me so happy, because it really does feel like one of your sisters is like is succeeding, and especially when you've seen where they come from, you've seen how hard they've grinded. Nobody has grinded harder than Mercedes Martinez. 100%. So for Mercedes to finally like have the spotlight that she deserves, that she's worked so hard for, like I know all of us are just like.
The only thing I will say is, Mick, the one thing Mercedes does for WWE, she never did for you, that's wear makeup and be foo-foo looking.
But see, that's the difference. You never asked her to do that.
Yeah. Have all of us been in the ring with Mercedes at one point in time at WSU?
Yeah.
I only wrestled Mercedes once, and it was like literally a 3-minute match. It was me and Tina versus her and Alicia. And one of the pictures that I found is her booting me in the face. And I remember that like Lexus's chop was nothing compared to the Mercedes Martinez chop. But one of the pictures I found, which I also sent to you, is literally Martinez giving me a boot. And I just remember being in the ring with her and her being like, I got you. And I'm like, okay.
If you want to talk about chops, ask Amy about the chops her and Luna gave to the Diva Killers.
We retired them. As Luna would say, those Drano drinking douchebag green beans, Mick, no more.
I wish I would have been around when Luna was at WSU.
Let me tell you something. That night she was hot, because what happened was, and you guys are going to just go, they fucking do what? We were sitting there and they were calling the match. And I looked and I went, oh, you ain't the vet. Luna is. And Luna just put her hand up and goes, I got this, little sister. It's okay. And then she looks down and the one had kick pads on. She goes, you have kick pads on. You better fucking know how to use them. And then she said, don't yank on my neck. Don't yank on my neck and we'll be fine. Don't yank on my neck. We're not even 2 minutes into the match. They're yanking on her neck. They're pulling on her neck. I was like, what the? She just snapped. She beat the balls. And then the bigger one went to run. I don't even fucking remember her name. She went to powder out and I threw her back in because Luna said, don't you fucking let her leave or I'll kill you. So I threw her back in the ring. And she's like, what are you doing? I go, I get my ass kicked by Luna. Fuck you, dumb bitches. And she took a pan. She beat the shit out of Liz Savage. She beat the shit out of the Diva Killers. I helped her. I skullfucked them. That's where skullfuck originally came from. And then we're getting ready to leave. She cuts a promo in the ring. We're getting ready to leave. And Missy Sampson comes over and says, now they're going to grab their stuff and leave. So you guys just wait here. I looked and I went, you're the fucking veteran. Why you got to wait to go in the locker room? She was like, I'll kill those bitches. And she just started running towards the locker. It was awesome.
It's funny because if you look at the history of WSU, and I know that was like a bad incident. That's probably the only incident I ever had. But that helps like kick off the promotion because everyone heard about what happened with Luna and Amy that night. And I can't remember how many DVDs I sold, but at the time it was the #1 selling DVD. And that got us like a lot of attention.
Yeah, it did. And then the dumbasses, instead of like playing it down, they went on social media talking shit. Remember, Mick? And I'm like,
That was good. That was good for business. So I enjoyed it.
I was like,
Mick
keep
was
talking,
fine with
'cause
it.
you know, I was like, keep talking because you're adding to my reputation. Please, just keep talking. Just keep talking. Just keep talking. So yeah.
Well, that's another great thing with social media. And when I did a podcast with Allysin Kay, she actually said the reason why she got Twitter was because Jessicka and I not forced her to, told her to get it because of WSU. We were going to one of the shows or coming back, and she's like, you get this instant gratification from at that time the shows were on, I think, like Fight something, whatever the .com was, and everybody was getting it instantly. So you were getting this instant feedback. And I think that was another thing with WSU, that we grew so much because people were using social media to promote their stuff. Like, I know me and Brittney Savage, like, how many promos did we do that we put online? And that was the only contact we had in between shows, where at the shows we were just beating each other down.
Yep.
I think that helped Jessicka Havok out a lot too with Twitter and her promos she was doing at the time.
Yep. And her big feud with Mercedes, that helped her a lot. Yes.
That's the only thing I ever had an issue with Mercedes. I'd always have to annoy her to hell. Please cut me a promo. Please cut me a promo. Please get your phone. Because she was never on like social media, nothing like that. I think the WWE actually forced against the social media.
Yeah, I think when
she has Instagram, she has Facebook.
Well, when she did the classic, they made her, because she had one that she literally had like 10 pictures on, and it was private, and she had no friend, like nobody on it. It was literally like friends and family, very, very close friends and family. And literally WWE was like, no, we need to tag you and stuff. Like you need one. So they made her open one, and then that's when she kind of started being like, all right, whatever, I'll post a thing. And she'll post, she like barely posts, but I mean,
no, she posts now. She's a social media hoe. She loves it. She's addicted. When she's at the gym, look at this, the Latin sensation, baby. And she's posing, with all the tats showing and that funky Popeye pose she does. But I love it. I pop every time. I just think it's awesome.
Well, like we said earlier, I mean, if anyone within the wrestling business deserves it, I mean, Mercedes definitely does. She grinded for years. How many injuries she had, how many comebacks she had. Like, I remember there was one time I didn't know, I don't think anybody knew she was coming back at this point in time. And I went over to Angie Sky, who is a girl here in Montreal area, because she was making my gear. And I happened to go in her gear room so she could like measure me. And she had Mercedes Martinez gear up on her board. And I was like, is Mercedes coming back? And she's like, yeah, but no one's supposed to know. And I was like, yes! I was so excited just to know she was coming back at that time. I mean, this is like probably 6-7 years ago, obviously. So that's quite a while ago now, but.
That's how Mercedes started. Like you were just saying, she was like injured and stuff. When WSU started, she was injured. So I was paying her just to come cut promos and do nothing. And that's eventually how our relationship grew and how she just kind of like took over for the company,
The best, because I mean, she really helped all of us grow into the women that we became at WSU, along with Amy and Annie, who had been there for a long. Actually, I remember the first time I met Annie, I was at a JAPW show, and they had just her and Gabby, or Roxy Cotton at the time, came from WSU, and they're like, we're not even supposed to be here. Like, shh. I was like, okay. And like, I had this match planned out with this other person, and the promoter comes up to me and goes, okay, change everything. And I'm like, wait a second, the match that I'm going out next. And he's like, yeah, you and Roxy Cotton. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, you're next, go. And cause like the pin just happened. And I was like, what? I'm like 6 months in the business at this time. I was like, you want me to go? I literally just met her and Annie 10 seconds ago, and you want me and Roxy Cotton to go out there and have a match? And like, I remember as I'm going out the curtain, Roxy's like, am I healer babyface?
Roxy Cotton was my first ever indie match, and Annie Social was there. It was in Mount Airy, North Carolina. I probably had like 2 or 3 matches at my school, but like those, they were just like in front of like basically family. So it was my first ever wrestling road trip, like just the girls. And my first ever match was Roxy Cotton, Gabby Gilbert now, and Annie Social. And I remember meeting Annie and being like, oh, I think she hates me. I was like, she hates me. She just hates me because the personalities are so different. I was like, oh, Annie hates me. And Gabby's like, no. She really likes me. I'm like, no. She definitely hates me, but she doesn't hate me.
No.
I love you. Come on now. Dude,
Annie's
that's
so
perfect. Do
chill.
you remember when Gabby had to pull over because she got like car sick, and then she was barfing all over the side of the road, and then changed.
No, she barfed on herself. So we were in we were in North Carolina, and it was like super windy. I wasn't sure. I almost told the story, but you brought it up, so I'm going to. We were literally driving, and we were literally like going in circles basically, and Gabby got car sick, but there's like nowhere for her to pull over. She's literally like, I'm sorry guys, and just like turns her head and like throws up in her lap. And then eventually pulled over. She kept throwing up and like found some like sweatpants in the back. So like in the middle of the road is like changing and putting on sweatpants. Then we went to Denny's. It was great.
And she had a blanket wrapped around her in Denny's. I was like, bro, you all right? Yeah. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
That was wild. That dude that we work for, he was trying to get us to do customs. And he brought out this box of bathing suits and was like, hey, wear one of these. I was like, bro, I'm not wearing some weird ass bathing suit that you just pulled out of a box and showed
me. A bunch of boots too. And he's like, don't worry, they're really old. And we're like, what do you
great,
mean?
that makes it better. What the fuck?
My
I tried that with Amy once, it didn't go over well.
With that?
I said I tried doing that with Amy once, it didn't go over well.
Fuck you, make me drunk, fuckface. See, you know how makes a badass when he's on the computer? You inherited Gene Moore's tough guy keyboard fingers. You fuckface. No, my funniest memory at WSU was I'm getting married, and my family was throwing a surprise shower, but they invited like Little Feather, Riptide, a bunch of the girls, and Mercedes comes up to me in the locker room and goes, here you go, Mama Chooch. And I go, what the fuck's that for? She goes, for your bridal shower. And Missy goes, Jesus Christ, Mercedes, you blew the fucking spot. It was supposed to be a surprise. That was the first night I wrestled Kong. I went to my bridal shower with a bruise from the back of my arm all the way down to my elbow. I must have had like 15 bruises on me. I looked like Art beat the balls off me that day. I walked in there. And that night I had gotten drunk with Kia at a sushi bar. And she wound up flashing her tits to the hibachi guy. I said, oh my God, I look like two St. Bernards going there. But there were some good times. There were some really good times there with everybody.
So what was like for each person? I want you to go through. Amy, we'll start with you. What was your favorite match that you were participating in at WSU?
I would have to say it was in that shithole theater Mick had for us. What was that theater called, Mick?
It was in Boonton, New Jersey.
Boonton, New Jersey. That's it, Brittany. Boonton, New Jersey, and I was wrestling Kong, and we took it to the streets, and we jumped on the hood of some guy's car and was screaming. And across the street was a family ice cream parlor, and when these people are out there with their kids looking at us in terror, in pure terror, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. It was a hallmark moment for women's wrestling.
Annie, how about you? What was your favorite match that you were a part of at WSU?
Oh, no question, Serena Deeb.
Oh.
Yeah, I absolutely loved wrestling her. She beat the living crap out of me. I had the most bruises on my boobs ever in my life. It was pretty insane, but dude, she's so good. Like it was great. I loved it.
Brittany?
Honestly, I enjoyed a lot of my matches, but I think my absolute favorite was my last and final match I had with Mercedes. Just because of the build up, because we had so much history there. So that build up was, to me, that was phenomenal. It was a good time.
Marty?
I have two. The first one was obviously winning the tag titles with Jazz. That was like, just a little girl in me is like, huh. But I think my most memorable match, like just in general, was when I won the Spirit Championship from Mercedes, from Jessicka. Because Mercedes wasn't like Mercedes. I have pictures of me like almost crying in the ring as Mercedes is handing me the title and like whispering. There's something she whispered in my ear that I'm like never gonna forget because it was so amazing. And you were involved in that, Stephie. Midwest Militia was involved, so Allysin Kay was in that too. But just it was amazing, and just obviously, like Mick, you giving me that opportunity, I ended up holding the title for 602 days. Like that was huge for me, and that was my first ever singles title. So it meant a lot. That everything about that, and the leading up to it. That was the third match her and I had. So it meant something. It wasn't just it didn't feel like a throwaway match. So I really appreciated the opportunity.
Well, for me, I definitely have to say, like, it was probably, I mean, the first time I won my first singles title was actually from Britney. It was a Spirit title on, I don't know, maybe the 5th or 6th anniversary show. And it was amazing. Ivory came out and chased off Rick Cataldo and ended up like, it was awesome. My mom was there. It was amazing. Britney and I mean, honestly, our feud will be one of my favorites that I ever had. But of course, to me, my favorite match is always going to be the War Games match, just because I was so out of my own element on that. Like, I never thought I would be put in a position like that. I remember I'm not particularly religious at all. And I went up to Mercedes before the match and I was like, can we pray? Because like that's like I was having a oh shit moment, you know. What did I get myself into here? And knowing the things that we had planned, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be insane. So that's definitely gonna be one of my like top favorite moments, not just at WSU, but I mean of my whole entire wrestling career. Mick, of all the shows you put together, do you have a favorite match, or can you even?
I look at it differently because I look at like the business, like, oh, this is what helped us like get to the next level kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like one of my favorite things was the I guess it was the second or third to last show I did when the Midwest Militia all won the belts. Just that photo of all three of you guys.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, we were building that for like 2 years. And when all you guys finally got it, I was like, all right, now we're at the next level. And then I sold the company. I couldn't top what I did with that. So I was like, I'm out.
That was it.
That was it.
Let's talk about that, because after that happened, I mean, we kind of reminisced a little bit about it before we started recording, is we were all on this trajectory like this. And then I feel like Drew didn't really know what to do with a handful of girls that he had. And then, of course, there was Alicia and Brittany and several other girls who were the hardcore grown women in WSU. Like that's where you knew them from. They weren't wrestling, you know, on a Shimmer show or anything like that at the time. That's where, you know, the homegrown girls is basically what I'm saying. And difficulties and everything in between, they stopped coming to the shows. And then DJ took over. And I know myself, Marty, you were there. Also, Annie, Amy, you were there for your induction, and then you also came in to help run the backstage a little bit at one time. Why do you think Drew and DJ just absolutely dropped the ball on this?
Well, first of all, not everybody. When you're very successful in what you do, and Mick was very successful with WSU, he made it look easy. So they did that horrible word called assume. That's the word ass that comes before you and me. And that's what they did. They assumed they could do the same thing. And then the difference was Drew pretty much was trying to dictate to people, and he reached out to me. I declined because once Mick sold it, I was done, because I was starting to end my career. I was like, I was going places in my legal career. So I was ending my wrestling career slowly. So, and Mick and I had talked about that previously to him selling it. That's why I became more of a commissioner role at WSU my last year or two there. So then DJ had where it was the Hall of Fame and stuff, and I actually thought it was a rib, because I was like, they don't even like, there's WSU ain't around. But there was a couple people that reached out to me and everything, and then when I found out Annie was inducting me, I said, well, it's legit because Annie don't play games. So I was like, cool. If anything, my baby from South Philly is going to induct me, my baby Chooch. So I was like, sweet. So, and a lot of the girls that were from WSU was there. You were there. I hadn't seen you in a while. You were there. And I got other girls I had worked shows with, like Mickey Knuckles and stuff like that. There was a big locker room of people that I had known over the years throughout my career that I seen grow up in the business. So then DJ, he pretty much wanted to dictate too with the women and tell them, you're doing this and you're doing that. But then he never stuck to it, and he kowtowed to people. Whereas Mick just basically said, this is the match, this is the idea I want to get across. It's your job to get the point across. It's your job to have the talent and the skill to get it across, but this is what I want across. Drew tried to dictate, DJ tried to dictate, and then when you screw people on money, that's a bad combination. Dictatorship and bad pay. That's just the recipe of destruction.
I can only speak for myself. I didn't see what they did. I never watched what they did or talked to them. But I had a great support staff, not just the wrestlers, but I had like Bison was there,
Bison,
Ray, Dexter was there. I had a lot of great people around me that like made me look. That's why I was able to drink all day, because I had great people around me.
But those guys also understood the business part of wrestling. They also understood wrestling, so that was a difference too.
Right. You have to know when to get yourself involved and when not to be involved in stuff, and maybe they got involved too much. I think the other thing is, you guys will agree with me and I'll agree with the company. Those guys just didn't have the relationships with you when they tried running it, and maybe they didn't try to, foster one either. I don't know.
I think for me, that's more where I thought, that's more of my thinking of why it wasn't the same. You, Mick, built relationships with us. WSU was your baby. I feel like with DJ and with Drew, we were the stepchild. Drew had Beyond. DJ had CZW.
Right.
It became a point for CZW that we just felt like we were the pre-show. We were the pre-show, and 100%. If you got to be there, cool. If not, it doesn't matter, because CZW, Cage of Death is happening tonight, or whatever big event was happening, and that's fine. And not to take anything away from the CZW guys and everybody else who busted their ass, but it just felt like we were an afterthought. So while you were hands-on to a point, you were hands-on with, sending us our emails and making sure people knew what was going on. And even if you did delegate stuff to other people, it was still a part of the team. Where coming into, I remember, one of my last few shows at WSU, I literally just felt like I was like, we are the pre-show. We are, come watch these chicks run around for a little bit if you want. If you don't, cool, whatever. But come to our big event. There was so much more promotion for everything else, where with you promoted WSU. You put out posters for WSU. We did events for WSU. It wasn't WSU and CZW, WSU and beyond. So to me, that's my personal opinion of why it just was not the same vibe at all.
But also too with Mick, he tag teamed up with other indie companies and put a WSU match to build that platform, that fellowship of WSU. Whereas, like DJ, I would say to him, you got the women's champion in town tonight. She should be, if your big show tonight is CZW, why can't you put that women's match on there? The people will pop for it. And to me, that tells me he was not confident in his product of CZW.
I took it serious to a fault, because Ray came from Jersey All Pro. So what do? They started their own company. So I'll get pissed about that. It's just to say how passionate you were about it. Like I said, you shouldn't really be fighting. Who cares where people were? Looking back at it, who cares where people work? You shouldn't really care about it. But as a promoter, you do care, because you know what they're trying to do. They're trying to bury your people, and you get pissed off. But to what Amy was saying, Brittany would tell you, I think I must have had 50, 100 road trips with Brittany just defending the Spirit title somewhere. And I always wanted to make an old NWA where our belts meant something. So you come to this area, it was just WSU, and I think I must have gave people 50 to 100 bookings, between Brittany, Alicia, Mercedes, when they had the belts for a while there, and they just got rid of all of that business idea,
Even Tina and I, we had shows that we did on the road. I don't even remember if we were even the champs at that point. It was literally just we were WSU girls, and I don't think that's not anything that they did. That's not something that they seemed interested in. So I don't know what the state of WSU is now. I have not done a show. I think my last match might have been actually Annie. You might have been one of my last matches there when you and Kim were teaming up.
My last match.
It's gone. WSU is dead over there. It's dead. I don't care what anybody's telling you. It's dead.
Well, I know they rebranded it just last year. I looked at their website. It's now Women's Superstars United. I think they've only one run show under that exact title. And it's completely different, basically what everybody else has been saying. And I mean, just last year, old WSU matches, not old from mix era, but from when DJ first took it over, they apparently sold it to a third-party company and were selling LuFisto versus Mercedes as a cat fight, boobs galore, or ass.
You know who that is, don't you? That is the guy that used to own WEW.
Yeah,
That's who it is.
Dan?
That's
No.
who it is. Not
the other
Dan,
one,
the old
Steve
dude.
Carell.
Yep.
Steve
Steve-
Carell.
That's who it is. That's who it is. Steve
Well,
Carroll. Steve Carroll is the one. Yep.
I know
That's it.
LuFisto got into a big altercation with CCW, and CCW was basically like, we can't do anything. We sold it, and how they brand it is their own thing, which was just like crazy. Because I'm like, okay, some of us, yeah, we had, you know, low cut tops and our butts hanging out of our gear, but I mean, that's part of wrestling. I mean, I wear more to the beach than I do, you know, or less to the beach than I do when I'm actually wrestling. So like, to me, it's crazy that they're selling these things as cat fights, and that's how they are trying to promote WSU at the time. And I was like, what are you thinking?
The biggest problem with that, if you're the promoter, like it's DJ who sold it, I guess, whatever.
I guess.
Yeah.
You're losing your locker room with that. Like, how much money do you think he's really making off that deal? I understand you want to make money. That's every promoter's job. What's he making off that? $2,000, $3,000 to lose your whole locker room over it? It's like it's not worth the trade-off when you plenty like this, you know.
Who owns it now?
I think it's still under DJ.
Is
DJ still
under
owns
CW?
it. So here you go. So here's a little bit for you. DJ still owns the company, but his video rights that in the beginning he sold all those, like you said, with like LuFisto versus Mercedes. He sold that library to Steve Carroll, who now uses them and puts them on some pay-per-view buy channel, internet channel or something.
Okay.
But he still owns it. But honestly, he doesn't have a locker room because I remember he had girls that were there. And one of the girls, I cannot remember her name, but one of the girls that was there, somebody had put their curling iron on her makeup bag and it got burnt and makeup got ruined. And she came to me and she said, "What do?" I go, "Well, you go to the promoter and you tell him because you got your shit burned." So she did. And she said something. So Maven Bentley went into his pocket to pay her, but he had no cash on him. So he looked at DJ. DJ's like, "Well, I have no money." And I go, "Yeah, because you're broke ass mountain." I was pissed because I'm like, she came to you and said, "I got a problem." And you just shrugged, "Fuck you." You blew her off. So I felt bad for her. So I said, "Well, how much did you pay for that?" And she said, $20. I went in my pocket. I gave her the $20. She goes, "I can't take that from you." I go, "Yes, you can." I said, "Because I'm your big sister and I'll make sure you're taken care of." Because, we never see, that's another thing at WSU. You had a locker room full of women from all different backgrounds, all different ages, all different styles, and they got along. There was no drama. When I went to that backstage at WSU, there was so much confrontation, so much anger, and just dismissiveness. And I was like, wow. And, I didn't come in there like a blazer. I came there as the girls' voices. So the girls would say to me, "He wants me to do this." And I'm like, "Listen, if you're not comfortable, don't do it." But he said he won't pay me. I go, "Did he pay you last time?" They go, "No." I go, "He ain't going to pay you now. He didn't pay you last time. He ain't going to pay you now." I mean, that's just talk reality here. He didn't pay. Listen, DJ had the theory of, "I'll gladly pay you Thursday if you wrestle for me Tuesday." And that's wrong. It's wrong. Whereas with Mick, by a certain time at the show, boom, here's your envelope.
100%. But for me, I mean, I'll be 100% honest here. I never had an issue with DJ paying me. He might pay me on Sunday, like, because we would do customs the next day, but that's just because he had CCW. So I can honestly say I am one of the few people DJ does not owe a penny to, and he always paid me within the said time that he would pay me. So I'm actually lucky on that behalf. But I know when I think maybe it was Drew and Alicia got into it on Twitter, I think, and that's one of the reasons why she didn't come back, is because he wanted to pay her like $25 or something ridiculous. And she was like, "Are you kidding me?" So I like, between Mick, Drew, and DJ, I never had an issue. I always got what I asked for, and they always paid my trans, whoever was with me, as well. So on that end, I was all good. So I never had any of those issues like some of the others.
That's another thing too. If you guys so you guys all kind of grew with me, unlike them. You guys would drive from Ohio all the time. That you were just saying Jessicka got flown, there back.
Well, she was living in Florida at the time.
Oh, she's living in Florida, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you guys will we were all growing together at the time, so maybe like everyone got to a level and they just know how to handle it. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember one time reading an article, I don't know where it was, Mick, but I have a picture of it somewhere, where you said that with the Midwest Militia, and I don't want to like put over my shit too much because I want to talk about all of our shit, but that you said that once you sold it, you thought Drew knew what he had with us, and then he just dropped the ball, that we were like the female Shield before the Shield was a thing in WWE.
Like if I stayed, I would have ran for another year and a half before you start splitting everybody off. But you guys, all three, you guys were great in that.
One of the best times of my career for sure. And
that was all your guys' idea too.
Well, I don't know if anybody here knows this story, but I shared it with you before, and I did a bonus episode on my Patreon with Allysin Kay on this. Mick was trying to kick around ideas for the name of the Midwest Militia as we were developing and starting to grow into what we were becoming. And his original name that he pitched to Jessicka and I said, I think he told me he didn't remember saying this, but he wanted us to be the Buckeye Bitches.
At least I listened.
Yeah. I think
but was amazing because AK's not from Ohio, and nobody outside of Ohio understands. Nobody would like that reference. Unless you're from the Midwest, specifically Ohio, you don't get that reference either. The Buckeye.
I was like that with everybody, because I know Annie came up with Beat Down Betty's. I didn't come up with that.
Yeah.
I think Brittany might have came up with Cosmo Club. I'm not sure if I came up with that or not.
I think you came up with it because we kept like trying to put our heads together, and I had nothing. And you were like, "What about the Cosmo Club?" But you also gave April and I our name too, which is the AC Express. The AC Express. I was like, what the fuck?
I think Tina and I named ourselves.
Yeah, you guys named yourselves. I remember you guys did. Yeah.
Flex named us actually.
Yeah, so I let people come up with their own stuff. I can throw you an idea. If you have something better, I'll just take it.
Buckeye bitches. I'm gonna text that to Allysin right now.
I told, because Allysin didn't know that, because I remember when we came up with Midwest Militia, Jessicka and I were at a show somewhere. I think we were wrestling each other, and we were talking about it, like, what are we gonna name ourselves, and blah 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 blah. And Mick had texted us that, and we're like, there's no way in hell we're gonna be called the Buckeye Bitches. We have to come up with something. I don't know where Midwest Militia came from at the time, but I know
that's such a badass name.
And you could really brand, like if say if WE had that name, you could really brand it well, kind of the fatigues and everything, Yeah. You don't have the budget to do that, but yeah.
One of the Mick, I have to thank you from the bottom of my heart for that, because Midwest Militia is so dear to my heart. There's still people who ask like, "Hey Stephanie, when COVID's over, Midwest Militia, are they gonna do a return?" And I'm like, Jessicka is currently with Impact, so that's no way that's gonna happen. And then Allysin, she's a free agent that needs to be signed somewhere, so I really doubt that's gonna happen. And I'm pretty much retired. I'm having babies and I'm done, But I if somebody did ask and I was in shape, I would 100% do it with both of them.
And maybe come back with the Montreal Militia.
Oh my God.
I don't know. There's, unless it's me and Mephisto, I don't know. There's not many other girls that I would go to battle with here in Montreal. Not saying anything bad about them. I'm just saying battle tested would definitely have to be Mephisto.
She's still wrestling Mephisto?
Yeah.
Well, right now in Canada, there's no wrestling shows, zero, zilch, nada, across the whole country. So, and the border pretty much is closed unless you are going for work, and which then she would have to have a visa and all that, and all the crazy border BS that goes on between wrestling and that. So, not at the moment, but I don't think she's anywhere.
She's not retired. Yeah, no, she's nowhere near done.
Yeah, no.
She's locked out right now, so.
Yeah. That's how most of us are. Well, you guys, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. Like, I feel like I said this earlier, you guys are my family. And I'm always going to be tied to you guys one way or another through WSU. And I'm so grateful.
Thank you for having us. This was a really fun. It was really nice to catch up with everybody and just see where everyone's at and just reminisce about the good old days.
Well, this was actually Marty's idea. Her podcast is out, and she was like, you should really do like a WSU Originals. And I was like, you know what? That's a great idea. And I asked, the reason why you guys are all here, I loved everybody at WSU. I never had an issue with anybody, is because you guys were requested by specific people that I asked on Twitter and Instagram and all that. So like Annie today, she was like, you should ask Missy Sampson. I was like, oh, I already have 6 people. I feel like it's going to be a little too much, but I would love to have Missy. And if I do this again in the future, I will definitely have Missy and other. Alicia needs to be on here as
Oh
well.
yeah, for
Cindy
sure.
Rogers. Cindy
Yeah.
Rogers.
Oh,
yes,
Cindy
there's a
Rogers.
lot.
Jana, there's a lot of.
Jana, yes.
Yeah, Jana. All of them.
Little
I'd love to do this every year for the WSU.
Yeah.
Anniversary.
March, we gotta do it March. We gotta do it for the anniversary show.
Yeah, and well, this is exactly when it's coming out, is the day after the anniversary. So,
Hell yeah.
Nice.
all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being a part. This is Talking Sass. Until next time, guys.
Thanks. Love you guys.